Welcome to this SUSECON session, where we will talk about how Avato advanced their smart data framework solution at client Steinbeis using SUSE Rancher and RKE. My name is Bettina Bassermann. I'm business strategist at SUSE, and I welcome our guest speaker, Leon Mueller. Leon is smart data lead at Avato and will be discussing with me for the next 25 minutes about Avato's smart data framework project at Steinbeis Paper and share with the audience how this came about and what the benefits are coming from this project. So, hello, Leon, and welcome to SUSECON. We're excited to hear about this project and thanks for taking the time for this interview.
Hi, Bettina. Thank you very much, and thanks for having me. And I'm very happy to share some experiences of the project that we had at Steinbeis and the usage of our smart data framework.
Thank you. Leon, before we like to explain to the audience who Avato Consulting is and also who our mutual customer Steinbeis is, I think it would be very valuable to start off with just a few sentences what we will cover in this session. So could you briefly summarize your project that we will discuss in more detail during this session so the audience understands our topic a little bit better?
Yeah, so the vision of the project was to establish an end-to-end Industry 4.0 IoT analytics solution at Steinbeis that should be serving as the foundation for the digital transformation journey of Steinbeis. And by doing that, Steinbeis wanted to gain insights across all business units and processes. And by doing that, to increase their overall equipment efficiency and also to increase the quality of the end products and to develop and support new business models.
Very cool. Well, this shows how digital transformation is coming to life, and that's not just a buzzword. But before we dig deeper into the project, let's give the audience a better understanding about Avato and Steinbeis. Could you please briefly introduce these two companies for us?
Sure. So Avato is a mid-sized IT consulting company, and we are operating in three major business areas. So one is expertise consulting, one is information management or knowledge management, and the third one where I'm working at is smart data, where we are having Industry 4.0 and intelligent asset management projects. We in smart data have mainly clients from the manufacturing industry, but also in public infrastructure projects. And our clients reach from mid-sized companies to large enterprises. And one of the pioneering projects for our smart data business unit was Steinbeis. And Steinbeis is a paper manufacturer that sits north of Hamburg in Glückstadt. And they also are a mid-sized company and have around 300 employees and a revenue of around 200 million euros. And one thing that is important to mention for Steinbeis is that they already back in the 70s shifted their business model to a sustainable model. And expanded that over time, over the decades, to a closed loop production. So, for example, Steinbeis is only producing recycling materials and produce their own energy consumption. So they have an own energy plant at their in Glückstadt. And Steinbeis is a very innovative company in the industry, and the usage of data has been for a long time an integral part. And as a pioneer, Steinbeis started their digital transformation journey already back in 2017, which is ongoing until now.
Thank you, Leon. It is exciting to see how advanced Steinbeis is in their sustainability efforts and at the same time drive this innovative project as part of their digital transformation. Now, I like to focus a bit more on what you said earlier about one of the drivers of the project. You mentioned that it was important for Steinbeis to get insights across all processes and org units. So, how did Avato know how to design your data collection framework, meaning which data to collect and where you need a spotlight on production processes?
Well, so first of all, to get insights across all processes and business areas, you need to potentially have all data accessible in order to have a holistic view on your business. And so it is really important not to only think in data silos, but in an integrated platform. So this is why we, from the beginning on, designed our smart data framework as an open and flexible solution that can serve many use cases. So it's not just designed for one use case, for one specific question, but for answering loads of questions. And these questions we identified together with the involvement of the client, of course, in order to then design and implement that architecture and the infrastructure at Steinbeis. And what we saw also is that in the industrial context, it is really important to scale and to have a good performance. Because, for example, at Steinbeis, we are talking about more than 25,000 sensors that are monitoring everything in the machinery. And also other data types generate a lot of data in that small company. And what we see also often at our clients is that they're having a very heterogeneous system landscape, which means that you have a lot of disparate data sources that you need to flexibly integrate into your platform. And this is why we have chosen a modular microservice framework, which allows us to easily deploy and develop services and also to flexibly adjust or exchange components in that infrastructure. And these microservices all access the data in a central data lake, which in our case is a SAP HANA database, which is very performant with all data.
Wow. To summarize this, I guess it's fair to say that the close partnership between you and Steinbeis, the scalability of the solution, you mentioned over 25,000 sensors, and the flexibility of the architecture in this heterogeneous landscape were the success factors for this project. So this is a really interesting project. But tell us why you choose SUSE and SUSE Rancher to include into this project. What was your motivation originally? And in a retro perspective, how do you judge the partnership with SUSE on this project and what we could bring to the table?
Yeah, well, so as mentioned before, we started with a handful of microservices in the beginning, obviously, and they could be simply managed with Docker. But over the time, the growing amount of microservices led to a horizontal growth of server nodes with all known problems. So deployment, root cause analysis, and monitoring were getting more and more complicated. And this is why we looked for solutions that were appropriate to meet these requirements that were upcoming. And we came to Kubernetes and especially to SUSE Rancher because we don't have any login, no vendor login. We have a support of all known Kubernetes distributions and all supported cloud platforms that are in the market. And what we really like is that we have let's call it single pane of glass and a central access point for efficient cluster management and central monitoring of our workloads. And what we also like is the continuous integration and continuous delivery functionality that comes with Fleet, which really allows us to flexibly deploy new services into the platform. And one thing which is especially important for mid-sized companies is that we have a very large degree of automation, which means that we are very cost efficient and can manage with limited resources a very complex infrastructure. And a last point to emphasize is that we already had a lot of good experience with the partnership with SAP, and also SUSE as a partner seemed to be a very good cooperation for us.
Great. Thank you. We are at SUSE are honored to work alongside you and SAP to support such an important project that increases the competitiveness of small and mid-sized enterprises, and moreover, that supports Steinbeis also in their sustainability efforts, which is also important to mention in today's times. So now that we've heard what Steinbeis was trying to achieve, please tell us more about Avato Smart Data Solution. I understand that you built microservices on top of RKE. However, could you please explain in a bit more detail how exactly does this framework and what benefit does it bring for Steinbeis IT?
Mhm. So, well, we need to start probably a bit in the beginning of the project because we started the digital transformation journey back in 2017. And as Steinbeis wanted to take advantages and benefits of the new technologies, we started with an iterative and agile procedure during the project. So what we did is really we started with a pre-project phase where we had several interviews with the several business areas where we identified use cases that were potentially important for them. And this use case list, we picked some to a short list according to, for example, expected outcome, the risk, the complexity, some quick wins, and then in subsequent phases build up the framework and met the requirements. And we then started in the subsequent phase with early use cases and in parallel build up the infrastructure and the platform itself. And what is important to mention here is that we always took the business case in the center and what really adds value to the customer. So what we wanted to achieve is that we want to measure on concrete results whether we add value here. And so the use cases were initially very production heavy. So we started with a large anomaly detection framework where we analyzed tens of thousands of sensors, but also other data types like KPIs or quality characteristics, but then also shifted to other business areas like the controlling or the procurement. And then we went on and also widened the scope and took other use cases into the project. We had also trigger-based topics where we had specific triggers. So, for example, Steinbeis needed to recertify for an energy monitoring system because their old system was obsolete. And this is what we then solved based on our platform with a holistic view on that process. And by the end of 2019 and beginning of 2020, we won 2 prizes for SAP, which is the Sub-Quality Award in the category Innovation. And it was first on the German area and then on the EMEA area.
Wow. So main focus, how to develop the solution came obviously from the value you added for the customer by monetizing the insights you gain from all the data. And obviously not only Steinbeis, but also SAP was impressed by your work and awarded you already twice. So congratulations for these awards from all of us. But now, for those parts of the audience who want to know how does the architecture look like, could you show us how your software and our infrastructure software did play together to make this happen?
Yeah, sure. So at Steinbeis, we had the usual virtualization stack that we connected to. So we have VMware as a hypervisor on top of the hardware. And then on top of that, we have deployed virtual machines that run with SUSE Linux Enterprise Edition as an operating system. And on top of that, we installed then RKE Kubernetes instance and clusters. And on top of that, the containers run. As you see here, we have several services to mention, as already mentioned, the anomaly detection framework that I mentioned, or the spend analysis from the procurement area. But what is important is that this is, of course, only a selection that we display here because we have more than 300 Kubernetes objects and from which more than 100 are containers or microservices. And it is really important to mention here that all our microservices are now running on RKE Kubernetes. And one thing here is what you see in the infrastructure is that we are having SUSE Rancher management as a management software for managing the workloads, which is really cool because we just need to go to one central access point in order to manage everything here. And as mentioned before, the platform infrastructure won the Sub-Quality Award in the innovation category, which among others was for the excessive usage of SAP HANA as the central data hub, as you see here.
Wonderful. So Rancher Central Management helped to manage the increasing growth of your containers and microservices, and you use SUSE as your chosen infrastructure layer for your workloads. But from an end customer point of view, what would you say was the benefit for Steinbeis getting SUSE underneath your software?
Well, I think first of all, it is a very intuitive UI. So it is really, yeah, just a click through and really intuitive to go through that cluster management. And what is also important is as already mentioned before, that we are 100% in the Kubernetes standard without vendor lock-in. So this is also an important thing for end customers, I think. And what we already discussed before is that we can very fast and agilely deploy new services with Fleet GitOps, which really makes it easy for also data scientists and analysts with minimal support to do the container management without deep Kubernetes know-how. Yeah, so they just need to access that point, and they can really just start. And yeah, as we saw before, it's with a single pane of glass, so the central access point, we just have one access point to do very efficient root cause analysis in case we have errors or problems in the infrastructure. And what is also important, of course, for clients is that they potentially can grow horizontally. So with SUSE Rancher and RKE, we can almost unlimited or grow to unlimited microservices, which to my mind is a very seminal technology to go forward. And what I also need to emphasize, which is also very important for many customers, is that it is a supported environment. So SUSE has a lot of great experts with deep Kubernetes and cloud native know-how that can support us in case of any circumstances.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. And for Avato, are there benefits beyond this projects that you see? What are the benefits for you for Avato? Are you planning to make this a repeatable solution, maybe?
Well, it is already a repeatable solution because it's the infrastructure is the basis for almost all of our client projects. So just in a probably with little adjustments. But as mentioned before, the good support also frees us concentrating on what is really important for us and on our core competencies. And it is much more efficient to manage the infrastructure compared to the old Docker environment. And what we really like is that we can support different operating models at our clients. So we can start with SUSE Rancher everywhere because we can go on-prem, we can go in the cloud, but we can also go on the edge. So we can scale from very single node clusters to big multi-node ones, and we can really just grow during the project. So we can start with a really simple solution and then grow where needed and as needed. And we see that RKE is also supporting other use cases, so which allows us to further develop our platform and flexibly adjust to our client needs. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for that insight. And what do you see for the future? Anything else that you would like to share with our audience?
Well, so as mentioned, we have a lot of Kubernetes objects already at Steinbeis, and I think we see other clients that have multiple production size. And here we really have other requirements that also can be met with that platform. So we can use SUSE Rancher as a standard architecture for near and far edge computing. And we are also planning at Steinbeis, I mentioned that all analytical services run on RKE already, but we are also planning to migrate our stateful services to the Kubernetes instance or Kubernetes cluster with Longhorn as a storage provider. And we are also having ongoing research projects where we are looking for scalable edge computing. And here the topic of that project is bridge infrastructure monitoring, where we potentially need to monitor and manage hundreds and thousands of edge locations. And we are also in the public sector, so we have projects in the public infrastructure sector, and we are really looking forward to SUSE Rancher's next generation RKE2, which is also known as the RKE government, which is the only government-ready Kubernetes distribution.
Okay. Thank you, Leon. This was really a fabulous project that me personally and also the rest of the team at SUSE really enjoyed. So thank you for taking the time to present this today. And for all listeners, I hope all listeners also found this insightful. So thanks. And I hope next year we have another cool project that we can present together. So any last words you'd like to share?
Well, thank you. I really enjoyed that interview, and I'm really looking forward to more exciting projects and more versatile projects together with SUSE Rancher in the next years. So I think there's a lot to do, but I think we have the right
Yeah.
infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you so much.